I don't wanna say goodbye like this. I'm watching as your face begins to fade. The last 6 months is waiting with its engine on. Our ugly rebounds waiting in their caves.
Welcome to the launch event for the Indie Tea Talk podcast. I'm Adam, and I'm your host for a journey into indie music across the north. Tune in as we explore unique melodies, chat with talented artists, and create a space where you can discover your favourite music like never before. Today, we're thrilled to have Sam Griffiths in the studio, the mind behind the critically acclaimed The Howl The Hum. Hailing from York, this talented indie rock band has captured hearts and minds with their deeply emotive lyrics, haunting melodies, and powerful live performances. Their unique sound, which blends indie rock, electronic influences, has earned them a dedicated following and critical praise. With standout tracks like Godmanchester Chinese Bridge and Same Mistake Twice, The Howl The Hum have cemented their place in the music scene. Join us as we dive into their musical journey, the evolution of their sound, and what the future holds for this incredible band. So, please give a warm welcome to Sam Griffiths. Thanks for coming.
You did a great job.
Honestly,
You nailed that.
I have been reading that script for about a week solid. And
I was going to ask if you can do our posters. That sounded amazing. That was better than any compliment my mum's ever given to the band. That was brilliant.
That is amazing.
I'm not asking you to adopt me, but that was it's a good start.
Thank you. So I guess we should kind of start at the beginning, which is quite
the early 90s.
Well, not that far back,
right.
But at the beginning of The Howl The Hum as a project, as a band. I don't know, how did it really start? What was it to begin with?
So I'm not from Yorkshire. I have lived in Yorkshire for 13 years now, but I'm originally from Essex. So I've got this really mangled accent, as you might be able to hear, in that I say Bath, but when I get drunk, I say Bath again. But I'm on the alcohol freeze tonight, so it's not going to happen. But I moved up to York, University of York, to study English, and I wasn't very smart, so I started going into town a lot to try to find, work out what I was good at. And because I wasn't very good at writing essays, I went to university with lots of clever people who were very good at writing essays about books and stuff. And I wasn't very good at that, so I went into town, and York's got 200 million open mics every single night. So you'd go out and there'd be a sort of chain of pubs that would be doing a different open mic or a folk night or things like that. So I started to go to those, started to meet a lot of the musicians who were in town. And a lot of the guys who were at that were either songwriters or musicians, or they were guitar players, and people would just sort of like start jamming together. People from all sorts of different musical scenes, different vocations, different jobs, different ages. And it felt, to me, I sort of romanticised it, and it felt like the Greenwich Village scene of like the 1960s in New York. But that's how I met everyone. That's how I met the original band. It started out as just me, and then we evolved to get a fellow called Bradley in to play the double bass, and then Connor, who was in a band called Little Moors, who were a wonderful band, eventually joined us to play guitar, and then Little Moors' old drummer Jack joined us, and that's the unit that we went around with for years and years and years, basically up until 2020, when COVID stopped us touring. But yeah, it started through just my songs and songwriting and stuff, and then me being a bit too frightened to do it all on my own. So enlisted some fellow musicians in the dusty bars and pubs of York.
Safety in numbers.
Safety in numbers, yeah, exactly. I'm not going down to London on my own.
So what were some of the biggest hurdles that you had to overcome when you were first starting out?
That was a big one, just starting stuff on my own, because I think I'm quite a nervous person in general. So stage fright, number one, I guess. And then the music industry is a terrifying place anyway, especially these days when there's absolutely no money in it. Yeah. So when we started releasing music, I probably still had the vague ideas that I did when I was about 8 years old, and that you record some music and you really hope someone listens to it, but at the end of the day there's absolutely no chance of it. We got very lucky with our first single because we still have a very good manager who is sort of the when the music industry was making loads of money, it'd be full of guys going into offices and slamming their fists down on the table going, you need to listen to this band, they're going to change guitar music. And we had a guy who was like that. We still have him, in fact. He's slightly less angry and slightly less hitting things on desks these days. But we had a guy like that who would basically go into the offices at Spotify or Sony Music and go, I've got this band, they're going to change guitar music forever. It doesn't sound like that at all. But it's very useful having someone like that because he grabs people's attention. And we were lucky that he did that to someone that was a fan of us at Spotify who put us on a playlist that basically meant that our very first single that we released in like 2017, I think, Godmanchester Chinese Bridge did really well, I think, because of fist slamming.
Yeah?
Really. Yeah. No, it sounds like he's a bully. He's absolutely not. He's just a very convincing man.
Yeah, I think it must really help to have that that person like banging the drum for you. You know, it's really hard to, you know, you can do it yourself as much as you want, but if you're trying to promote your own thing, everyone kind of goes, oh yeah, it's, you know, of course you like it, it's yours. But if you've got someone else in the background going, actually, have you checked this out?
Exactly. And the more people, obviously, the better. That's sort of how you build that fan base, but especially how loud they clang that particular drum. If you've got really stoic supporters, if you've got a really strong, like, battalion of drum beaters, you're going to be all right. And we've been lucky that we've had, like, a very strong group of people that are beating the drum over our music at every stage. But definitely having that at the start meant that all the fears at the start were sort of a bit eviscerated, and it meant that we were introduced to audiences sort of everywhere, really. That's the best side of Spotify, is that anyone can listen to it everywhere. The worst side of it is you get paid 0.002p a stream. So
need quite a few.
Yeah, you need a few of them. Yeah.
So you've kind of mentioned Godmanchester Chinese Bridge. So that song, it was kind of a bit of a pivotal moment for you. And it kind of gained you significant sort of limelight and national attention. What did what did that song do for you as a band? What did it enable you to be able to do?
Well, I remember when we released it and it started getting played on those playlists, which felt great. Like, you saw the number go up. It got something like 500,000 plays in the first month or something, which is crazy. As soon as you think of 500,000 people, that's like, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that many people in one place. So it's difficult to imagine that amount of people listen to your music. So then we started booking shows, booked a little tour, and we just assumed that we were going to be playing Wembley by the end of it. But we were, as soon as when we first started playing music, we we're playing the Fulford Arms in York and maybe bringing sort of like 30, 40 people along to it. We'd only played a handful of shows. So our agents heard us and were like, we like the songs, but you guys suck. So you need to go up to the Scottish Highlands and go and play in front of absolutely no one. So we did that. We went up to the Highlands and we played in front of sort of like 4 or 5 people a night. Went up to like Orkney, the Orkney Isles, which is really, really high up, and played in places in the Cairngorms. And when we came back, we were essentially assuming that we'd be sort of Neil Young and Crazy Horse would be like the greatest band on the planet, and we were just a little above mediocre, which felt great because then it just gave us places to aim and ceilings to hopefully break through. So what it did to us was it introduced us to a touring circuit and gave us a response to sort of our own criticisms and developing as a band and spending time in a van that kept breaking down, and then just gave us a little more incentive to keep working. Like I say, that there isn't really a huge amount of money in the music industry, especially not when you're concentrating on streaming alone. But what it did do is it got us a lot of experience, especially in touring, and then it got us some record label attention a little bit later, which is like, they're the buns you want to be kissing, which we slowly learned. And then kiss we did, eventually.
How long were you up in Scotland then?
Probably only a couple of weeks. It's sort of one of those tours that felt like years, because it was the first time we'd done anything like that, and we went in Connor's stepdad's sort of old minivan. It wasn't a tour bus or anything. It was a minivan, and it was probably, I think it was probably only 8 or 9 gigs, but it felt like a lot more than that. Every gig feels like 10 rehearsals. You're going out and you're trying stuff in front of people, and your amps might break, your guitar strings might break, you might get the words wrong, and you learn how to battle with that, and then that just teaches you so much more than you can learn sort of sat in one rehearsal room.
Yeah, I think one of the best things you can do is have things go wrong.
Exactly. That's a very good way to put it.
Because it teaches you that there are ways around it, and it's how you adapt to it, and that, you know, it makes things less scary for the future, I suppose, because you're like, okay, yeah, I dealt with that.
Exactly. And you know that the world didn't end. It was because your B string broke.
Yeah. So you kind of got to the part where we got to lockdown, when you kind of give us a bit of a description of the intro. So lockdown kind of, a lot changed. A lot's happened. How has your songwriting process evolved with the new band lineup? And have there been any surprising influences in this change?
So I guess it's one thing that COVID did was completely knock my confidence. So when COVID happened, obviously, like, I'm not going to be the person here going like, my album didn't sell very well. Like, people died. I'm definitely towards the lower end of the sorry spectrum there. It's, you know, I do not need the pity for it. But I stopped writing for a couple of years, so I had to relearn it. It was a bit like relearning to ride a bike, learning to criticize my own writing and to learn to not be too critical of it and allow yourself to make mistakes, just as you were saying, making mistakes as you go is as important a part of the creative process as it is the touring process. So I had to relearn how to write songs and relearn how to enjoy my own songs again. So sitting at the piano and sitting at the guitar took a really long time. But some of the things that came out with it, as I'll play in a little bit, is sort of a bit more of a stripped back approach. And I started to reinterpret some of the older songs with a bit more of a stripped back approach. And I'll know the live band now is one person bigger. It concentrates a lot more on intimacy. And I think the importance of those intimate moments make the loud bits all the more dynamic, make them all the more important. And that, to me, is sort of the most important part of the live performance, is like when you've got people in the palm of your hand, you can either like, it can explode or it can go to an even quieter place. And that, to me, is really exciting. It explores something interesting about how humans interact and what we do with each other. I think that's... So yeah, that's how it changed a little bit.
I think that's quite interesting. If you compare it to comedy, it's all about the timing, and you can have people there, but if you mess that timing up, deliver it wrong, you can spoil what could otherwise have turned into an entirely different dynamic. And like the way that you put it then is reading the room and reading the atmosphere. And that, I think that's I'd not. Before then, I'd not put the two together, but yeah, I can see
they're really similar.
See the link, yeah.
Very exposed forms of art, really. And some of my favourite songs have moments of real humour, real like weird little jokes, and then it just means the next line can be the most frighteningly sad thing that you've ever heard, and it hurts so much more. Randy Newman is a genius at it. It's why I think Bob Dylan's lyrics are so great. But as soon as you get that, an element of humour and an element of sadness together, it sort of makes that perfect little empathetic moment.
Yeah.
It's like the most human bit.
Yeah, I completely agree. So how have you kind of dealt with emulating the sound of the original lineup when playing your back catalogue?
So although we haven't relearnt every single part that we did with this new lineup, we are definitely acknowledging it and definitely celebrating it, because at the end of the day, people want to turn up and they don't just want to listen to me be sort of miserable for an hour. I think I really love going to shows and there's still a pulse. There's still a real like spectacle. And so it's honouring the spectacle as well as honouring the intimacy. So we've got a couple of extra instruments. One of the people that I met over the last few years is an unbelievable musician who plays keyboards and saxophone. He's sort of like one of the best sax players in the country. And that came as I started writing some songs that were a bit influenced by Bruce Springsteen and a band called Black Country New Road, both of whom famously use a lot of saxophone. And he added these textures and layers that emphasise both the subtleties in the intimacies that I was trying to portray, as well as the sort of exuberant, over-the-top displays with the ridiculous sax parts in some of the songs that will be coming out soon. So yeah, there's definitely nods to how we used to play, but it's not an identikit version.
Yeah. Just seeing as though you brought up the saxophone, can you tell us a little bit about the saxophone part in Same Mistake Twice?
Oh yeah. Well, so we recorded it all in Hackney in London over like on weekends last year, basically, and I'd get the LNER down on whenever I wasn't working, and so our time was limited in this little studio, which was probably about an eighth of the size of this room. We recorded the whole album in, and Matthew, the sax player, lived down the road, and we got him to come along to just like have a listen to the songs and see if he could think of any additions. And we played him Same Mistake twice, and he got to the end, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I hear something." And so we set up a mic for him, just a bit like you're sitting there, and he played the song through twice, and the second take is what ended up on the recording of it. Just as he was just sort of sitting there tootling away, and we went back and listened the next day, and we're like, we need to do no more to this song. That was a lovely feeling. And then things sort of fell into place as a result of that. It was the first song, I think, that we finished on the album. The first one that felt right and the first one that felt like it was a lovely bridge between the first album, this new energy, and the songs on the second album.
Brilliant. How have you been involved in the new lineup a lot in the songwriting then, in the new section?
Matthew, the sax player, yes, because he's an amazing songwriter on his own. He's got a project called Seafarers, who are just brilliant. He's an unbelievable songwriter. I take songs to him as a critical ear. He's helped. He's got a few co-writing credits on this album with Same Mistake Twice and Dirt, which is going to be the next single that I think I'm going to play tonight, mainly for his sax parts, but. I've literally just got back from staying in London for a week, doing more sessions and staying at his house. So we did a bunch more writing, and he's a brilliant musician, so he helped a lot. There's also someone called Eleanor Moss, who's another singer who helped me a lot with this album. She's fantastic. She's not in the new live touring band as such, but she's probably going to be singing with us a bit on tour. It feels more like a sort of evolving collaborative thing now. Yeah. It's like there's this amazing... Do you know the band The Fall, Marky Smith?
Yeah.
He had an amazing quote where it was basically just him and then whoever he got to play along with him. He had like 100 members. And his quote about the membership was, "If it's me and your nan on bongos, it's The Fall." And I love that. I'm not saying my nan is here on bongos tonight, but if she were, it would still be the Howl the Hum. So it became this sort of... It's very recently, I guess, became a sort of more of a rotating lineup in which it can exist in any formation. It can exist as a one piece. It can exist as a... When we played York Minster, there was a 12-piece choir and a 4-piece string quartet, but it's still the Howl the Hum. It's just like an expansive version of it.
Yeah, I like that. It breeds more creativity, I suppose, because you've got such a level of adaptiveness. You can be, like you say, 1 minute with a choir, the next it's just yourself, or with saxophone or whatever. It means that wherever you're performing, you can get an entirely different sound, an entirely different song with the same back catalogue.
Exactly. Fewer limitations as well, which is always a nice thing to experience when feeling creative.
And as well as that, people are notoriously, especially musicians, are notoriously flaky. So it gives you the adaptability to work around that one, I suppose.
If the van breaks down in Europe with all of our gear in it, we only have to get me on a bicycle to Germany or whatever it is, and we're going to be fine. I'll just do the gig a cappella. I don't care. Yeah. Someone stop me. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, on that point, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll jump back into the second part.
Yeah, lovely.
Thanks very much.
When I was young, I said this town will live in my dust. My father said, "My boy, that life's not for the likes of us."
Welcome back to the Indie Tea Talk podcast. We're in the studio with Sam Griffiths. So, your new album is coming out on the 6th of September. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Can you? You've mentioned recently in another little podcast that I listened to that you've been trying to move away from the digital sort of domain that you were existing in. Not domain, I suppose, but the digital sound that you were existing in. And you've moved to a more of an analogue. What's inspired this change, and how do you think it's going to adapt your latest music?
Well, so for album one, we used a lot of synthesizers and drum machines and things like that. And we were listening to a lot of New Order and LCD Sound System, 80s dance music and some of the post-punk stuff. So it made a lot of sense to us using some of those things. And our producer was very keen to try them out as well. And then over COVID, because I sort of forgot how to write songs and had to relearn, I went back to everything that I used to love, which is very acoustic, Bob Dylan, and Neil Young and Leonard Cohen and Joni Mitchell. Very like artists who came about essentially just with themselves and a guitar and the song, and they let the song speak for itself. So with this album, again, it's that sort of, it's almost an intensity and like a nakedness, really. So a lot of the songs have a real bareness to them. A lot of them really don't. A lot of them are really quite over enthusiastic and quite packed out and still sound pretty dynamic, but there's a lot of honesty on this album, and so as a result we stripped a lot of it away. There's quite a few songs on the album that are live takes of a bunch of us just in the room, which we only had one of on the first album, but I think gives a really natural sound too. Yeah. And because we wanted to build it up really organically like that, I think that's the thing, that's the thread on the whole album, the thing that makes it feels breathing. Sometimes with synthesizers, if you had too many on, it's difficult to make them sound like they're played by humans. And I think everything on this album sounds like it's played by humans.
Have you got a favourite bit of analogue equipment that you've kind of warmed to during the production and recording of this latest album?
This acoustic guitar doesn't get too much more analogue than that.
Not really.
Yeah, I mean this was a lockdown purchase that I wrote the album on. That and my grand's piano that now lives in my house. So and the saxophone. I love things that sound like they can breathe. This guitar to me it still smells like a new guitar, so you can like almost taste the wood on the air. But the piano that I learnt to play piano on is in my house. So all of these things it's quite tactile. Like you can feel all of it. Yeah. And I think that was a really important thing to me, and I think it sounds like that on the record. So any horn that you hear on the album sounds like a horn. Every violin, you can hear the scratch of the violin. Every double bass, you can hear the resonance at the low end of it, because you can hear either the fingers playing it or the bows stringing it. And we wanted that to come across. You want to sound like you're in the room.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's been a big wave of popular music that's kind of tried to eradicate human elements in the song. You know, we make mistakes. We make mistakes that can be creative, and to try and bring that back in and to try and say, look, this is an actual thing. It's not a figment of a computer program. It's a physical thing that makes noises. You know, like the sound of your fingers moving up the fretboard. It's part of the song. It's part of the production, and I'm really passionate about trying to incorporate those in when we do. You know, we invite people in here and we do live music, and a big part of that is because it's a product of its moment. You know, it might not be the quote unquote best take that you've ever done of it, but it's about that moment that you were in this studio or wherever, you know, but in this studio and playing that instrument, and it tells a story, and I love that, and I think that's a really interesting sort of concept that you're exploring with this album. I think
well, thematically as well, because it's called Same Mistake Twice. It heads into those mistakes and goes like, if I were a perfect human, I don't think there'd be any stories to tell, which is exactly what you're talking about with those takes.
Exactly that. I think it's really important to acknowledge those mistakes and learn from them and be able to progress as a human, as a musician. You know, to look into it and think, I am a product of my mistakes, and that gives me the ability to move forwards. Whereas if you look at that in a negative way, you're kind of always going to be stuck back in that place, trying to not make them. But we do, don't we? You know, it's just a natural part of who we are as people.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. So going into Same Mistake Twice. Again, going back, I listened to your recent podcast with, is it Swan Song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And during that, you mentioned that the writing of Same Mistake Twice came about from an interaction with a fellow musician and talking about voice notes. So I wondered if there were any funny stories or cringy moments that you could tell us about the voice notes that you've left in the past. And
Oh God. Any that I can share.
that you can share, yes.
This was over 10 years ago now, but I once dated two people, not at the same time, but I dated a person. It's 2024, you can do that now.
Yeah, it's fine.
I dated a person with a name, and then the next person that I dated a few months later had the same first name. And I was dumb. I wrote the second person a song and sent it to her, and then an hour later when I checked my phone, realised that I sent it to the wrong one.
Oh, no.
The previous one. And it was quite evident that it was about
The other person.
a new love as opposed to the regrets of an old one ending. And the next sort of hour of my life was a picture of the first person just sending pictures of her and all of her friends doing that to the camera, which stays on my phone as a reminder that's best to double check who you're sending voice notes to.
Oh dear.
I'd forgotten about that one. Goodness me.
Well, I'm glad to bring it to the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we have been very kindly sponsored for today's event by Wold Top Brewery. They've provided us with a load of free beer, which everybody out there is enjoying, me included. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Wold Top Brewery for the generous donation and support. And in the spirit of this, I've got I've used a little bit of creative license on some of their online descriptions for the beers, and I'd like to ask Sam to best describe the Howl and the Hum with a beer from Wold Top Brewery. So your options are Against the Grain, which is full flavoured with a good creamy head, refreshing, bitter and citrusy. Golden Summer, which is both fruity, light but subtle, dry finish, for relaxing in the sunshine and those long days of summer. Marmalade Porter, which is complex, rich, dark, with a sweet base, overtones of bitterness and hints of chocolate and coffee. Landmark, which is a perfect British craftsmanship, crisp and refreshing. Or Wold Top Bitter, which is a flagship, homegrown and unusually full of flavour and a long hoppy finish.
So many questions. But did you say the Marmalade Stout?
So we've got Marmalade Porter, which is
Marmalade Porter.
complex, rich, dark, sweet base, overtones of bitterness and hints of coffee and chocolate.
I've never related more to overtones of bitterness, but I guess the sort of eternal taste buds I have in my mouth are chocolate and coffee, so I think I'm going to go for that one. Eternal bitterness, chocolate and coffee, summate where most of these songs come from, I guess. So we'll say that.
Well, thank you. I'd just like to big cheers to Wold Top for helping us out today. So thank you very much. So kind of to wind the evening to an end, I suppose, let's just a couple of quick fire ones. What's the weirdest or funniest thing that's ever happened to you guys on tour?
This one of the songs I'm going to play, I think, is when we were first on the Orkney Islands, that I mentioned earlier, when we were rubbish and our agent sent us just around these venues with sort of one man and his dog in. We arrived on Orkney and we kept getting overtaken by this one car over and over and over again. And we were looking around to see who he was racing, and it turns out he was racing us in his minivan. And so while he kept overtaking us over and over again, we wrote him a song, and that song turned into a song that I'll play in a minute called "The Only Boy Racer Left on the Island." So there's something kind of like that was turned into something permanent about this one lonely, weird guy in a Fiat Punto whizzing around the Orkney Islands.
Amazing. Do you have any pre-show rituals or superstitions that you swear by to get you into the zone before recording? Or performing, sorry.
I do. Well, I've got like a whole vocal warm-up routine usually when it's a big, when it's a full band show to save my voice. But I watch a video by a band from the 80s called Pear Ubu. It's a live show, TV show of them performing a song called Waiting for Mary live, and I go into a dark room and I watch that and get essentially try to copy what that man does, and I'm not going to enact any of it now.
Are you sure? Because I think there's
absolutely no.
There's a few people here that might want to see that.
I would recommend checking the video Waiting for Mary by Per Ubu, but the live version, because that is basically, it gives the game away. It's who I'm trying to be,
right?
Almost all of the time.
Oh God! Can you tell us a little bit about your UK and European tour that's coming up in November?
Yeah, they're going to be the biggest shows we've ever played. Leeds Irish Centre.
Amazing venue. Yeah.
One of the best places in the world. We're also going over to Europe and playing, I think, 8 gigs through Belgium, Amsterdam, Germany and the Netherlands. And then planning some bits probably for later in the year and something up in the northeast as well, but nothing is confirmed and I'll get shot if I talk about stuff that is unconfirmed. But because the lineup changed over the course of the last year, had to get a new band together to film a music video at the start of this year. And so after we filmed that music video in January, we all actually went and got in a room and started playing through these songs. And now, sort of 5 months later, the set is ready. So we've got 5 months to sit on it. So hopefully it's either going to be incredible or we're going to fucking hate each other by November. So I guess turn up and see which of those it is.
Is that for the Same Mistake Twice, the video you're referring to?
Yes, that's the one, yeah. In Saltaire.
Can you tell us a little bit about the head?
The head. I sometimes bring it with me. So
I wish you had.
The head is a friend of mine called Megan McLean, who is a genius mad woman from Derry. We had wanted to work together for ages because she is just a brilliant artist and just like a visual artist in general. She has incredible ideas. I spoke to her about making a video for a song of ours that just came out called No Calories in Cocaine, which is about self-destruction. And so she came up with this character of a guy whose life had fallen apart. And then the running order of the singles changed, and we were like, well, maybe that character can exist as a thread throughout the album. Maybe this is the uglier side of my anxiety and my subconscious and all of the sort of like all the ugly parts of how I think about myself. And so she built this big horrible head that we called Norman, who then she started to write his backstory and his failed marriages and his like the brand of cigarettes that she smokes that she then invented. She's a mad witch, but in the most amazing way. And so she essentially made the entire visuals for the album. Then the more stuff that she made, the more it related to what all the songs were about, even after I'd written them. She sees through space and time, and that's how Norman came about, and he will appear more over the next couple of months as we make more and more weird, cheap little videos, and she tells me more about his recent history.
Amazing. So you're going to perform a few songs for us. Mm-hmm. Do you want to pick out a couple and give us a little bit? I know you've kind of just given us a little bit of a backstory there already, but do you want to give us a bit of a backstory to any of the songs to develop how we understand them or how you understand them? Because I know that when you look at a song that someone's written, it can have many connotations and many meanings, and I think that people can personify their own opinions onto it. But looking at it from where you wrote it and your sort of stance on it, is there any songs that you'd like to tell us about or chat through? Well,
I guess out of all of the new ones, I'll play a couple of new ones, I think. And to give you a little context on the album, it's vaguely, discussing the big weird paper mache head that we used as sort of to symbolise the album. It's about anxiety and it's about how we see ourselves, and it's about through the identifying of our own mistakes and the learning and growing from them, how we can learn to evolve and try to, I guess, love ourselves. But I think at no point does it provide an answer, and it doesn't necessarily end well to any of the characters in any of these songs. So I know that's a relatively broad thing to say about all these songs, but without going too specific, I'll try to let the songs tell the rest of the story.
Brilliant. So I suppose it's time to plug yourself a little bit. Where can we find you? What platforms are you on?
Oh,
what are you?
Everywhere. Jesus, I'm so tired all of the time. Any social media platform you can think of, I have to be there. I am, everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok. Man, it's so exhausting.
And what are your handles on those?
It's all the Howl and the Hum. It's all the Howl and the Hum. Yeah, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, LinkedIn. Pinterest. I'll do Tinder. I'll do anything these days. It's a grinder. Yeah, honestly, why not? It's strange to exist in 2024. But I am trying to find the most fun way to do all of them. And it turns out TikTok isn't all 14-year-olds doing dances, so I'm learning that part of it. But it's a growing thing that I'm slowly getting accustomed to. As a man born in the early 1990s, it's a difficult thing to get my head around, but I'm getting there. So apologies in advance for some of the content that I do spew on all of these social media platforms, but it is all for the sake of the song.
Thank you. I can fully appreciate that, because I am not a social media anything. I have it sort of, and then since we've started doing this, it's been kind of a big learning curve. And just like the other day, I was really proud of myself, and I created my first reel, and I sent it to Kitty, who was unfortunately not here with us today. And I said, like, oh my God, I've made a reel. Is that a reel? And she was like, yeah, you've done it. You've done one. I'm like, brilliant.
Well done.
Well done, me. Well, thanks so much for coming. And thanks all of you for being here today. It's been really good. It's been a great experience. It's been great to show you all around the studio. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me and Sam. More Sam, thankfully. And I'd just like to thank you all for giving up your time. And yeah, just remember, you can follow us all on social media. You've just dropped a can, which is spilling on my floor. Thanks for that. So you can catch us on social media. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. I don't know if I'm on anything else. I'll ask Kitty about that. But yeah, thanks again for coming. I hope you've really enjoyed it. And until next time. Oh, yes. Big round of applause for Sam.
Thank you.
And Sam is going to be gracing us with some amazing music now. So we're just going to have a quick 5-minute break while we reset this stage up. Thanks again for coming. Have a lovely evening. Thank you. Bye.
When I was young, I said this town will live in my dust. My father said, my boy, that life's not for the likes of us. But the boys in the streets, in the fast cars, they kept turning heads. And I said, boy, they're real men, Dad, one day I'll be one of them. The only boy racer left on the island. The only boy racer left on the island. They say you can hear the engines from the mainland, yeah. Like when I was 10, saw the high street heroes speeding round the bend. But those engines got sold when the speed freaks settled down in the South. I guess masculinity's a pursuit left to the embers of youth. The only boy on the island. The only boy racer left on the island. The lonely joys of holding on, the vines and leaves all gathering on. The only boy racer left on the island. No man gets left behind. And no man gets left behind. You lie on discounted eiderdown. I lie about who I dreamt about last night. The TV tells me that God loves me. Well then, why does He leave me on red? Jesus Christ, I feel lonely. The only affection I get is through phone screens or adverts on Pornhub. Do you think they want to meet me at all? Give me a reason why I shouldn't be someone else every day of my life. I don't need someone to tell me I'm perfect, just someone to notice I'm trying. I'm not asking for much, and this ain't no unreasonable crime. I just want to be loved by everyone all of the time. By everyone all of the time. True love's a pale blue dot from a space probe, a bruise on my neck that you let go, a mutual agreement that maybe we all get it wrong sometimes. Give me a reason why I shouldn't be someone else every day of my life. I've realized people are both good and evil. It's just how you prove it online. I'm not asking for much, and this ain't no unreasonable crime. I just wanna be loved. I just wanna be loved. I just wanna be loved by everyone all of the time. By everyone all of the time. There's no calories in cocaine, no gluten inside MDMA, half cut in the morning rain. There's no guilt in a walk of shame. I know it's fucked up that I feel this way. I wish that you could spend a week inside my brain, fumigate the whole damn place, make me feel innocent again. But there's no fat in ketamine, no memory sticks in the morning rain. No memory means no pain. I'll get fucked up till I feel okay, then download a meditation app, feel a little better about where my life's at, get thin, post it on Instagram, hate myself and get back into drugs again. I stayed up for 3 days straight. I start to feel the age upon my face. The number on my skin goes up with every particle poured in. We used to have nights to remember, drink enough to help forget. Can I stay on your couch? I swear I haven't had my fill quite yet. Cocaine, no gluten inside MDMA, half cut in the morning rain. There's no guilt in a walk of shame. I know it's fucked up that I feel this way. I wish that you could spend a week inside my brain, fumigate the whole damn place, make me feel innocent again, make me feel like a kid again. I'm waking up from a fever dream, I feel anew. The last 6 months just climbed out of me, but I still miss you. Oh, with the greatest respect, you said without me you've no chance of surviving. They say the greatest revenge is living well, so fuck you and I'm thriving. But I know all your passwords and you know mine as well. We've seen each other's bodies at their worst and their best. Don't tell about the terrible tattoo on my chest. We'll delete each other's nudes out of a sign of respect. You've got dirt on me, I've got dirt on you. So let's keep this clean. It's not like we ain't got nothing to lose. Driving out past your parents' place, now I feel blue. I guess they'll choose to forget me now, like mine forgot you. But baby, who gets the Netflix now? And how do we divide up the mutuals? I wonder who writes our history. And how do we decide what the future was? but I know all your passwords and you know mine as well. We've seen each other's bodies at their worst and their best. Don't tell about the terrible tattoo on my chest. We'll delete each other's nudes out of a sign of respect. You got dirt on me, I've got dirt on you. So let's keep this clean. Nobody ever has to find out the truth. You got dirt on me, I've got dirt on you. So let's keep this clean. It's not like we ain't got nothing to lose. It's not like we ain't got nothing to lose. I'm down, I feel this in the morning after. Sit down and take over the world. When you're down, now there's nothing in that ever after. Mercy is a sweet disaster. Now hang me off your every word. You got dirt on me, I got dirt on you. So let's keep this clean. It's not like we ain't got nothing to lose. I don't wanna say goodbye like this. I'm watching as your face begins to fade. The last 6 months is waiting with its engine on. Our ugly rebounds waiting in their caves. So meet me on the bridge, we'll hand over our hostages. A fake silver ring, your books in foreign languages. You can keep the coat, it looks better on you. Anyway, I'm fine, I guess the cold's a state of mind. And two lovers met, two strangers left. You say I'm dead on the inside, babe, I've known that for a while. And it wasn't like you liked me for my sunny views on life. Oh, I'm dead on the inside, babe, I've known that all along. Well, anytime I tried to love you, I got it wrong. So meet me on the bridge, we'll hand over our hostages. Your dad's broken watch, a letter to your old address. You just stay so cool, it looks better on you. Anyway, I'm fine, I guess alone's a state of mind. And two lovers met, two strangers left. say I'm dead on the inside. Babe, I've known that for a while. And it wasn't like you liked me for my sunny views on life. Oh, I'm dead on the inside. Babe, I've known that all along. Well, anytime I tried to love you, I got it wrong. So meet me on the bridge. We'll hand over our hostages. One final fix before we fade into acquaintances. If this is how we die, become just you and I. You turn round and smile one final time. You were just a state of mind. And two lovers met, two strangers left. Thank you.